The Royal Horticultural Society is a British institution that has been in existence for more than 200 years. In 2017, they embarked on one of their biggest and most ambitious projects in decades. The creation of a new 154-acre garden in Salford, Greater Manchester. At a cost of more than £35 million, it's one of the biggest and most ambitious garden builds that Europe has ever seen. To build the garden, the RHS gathered world-class designers.
I think they could be possibly controversial.
Gardeners.
We're constructing a stream in the middle of winter, so as you can see, we're walking through soup.
Contractors, horticultural experts, and pigs. Yes, pigs. To breathe new life into this derelict grand estate that once belonged to the Earl of Ellesmere, one of Britain's wealthiest industrialists. The build would involve the creation of a new lake.
It's just a huge excavation of about 8,500 metres cubed of soil.
A state-of-the-art welcome building, and the addition of thousands of plants and trees. Despite the massive challenges and a global pandemic, the gates opened to an apprehensive team and excited public in May 2021.
I now declare the RHS Bridgewater Garden open.
It's 3 months on from the opening, and curator Marcus Chilton-Jones is getting used to sharing the space that the team have had to themselves for the past 4 years.
So the opening went really, really well. It was an amazing day. I think everyone had got to the point where, you know, there was all that nervous energy, getting things ready, getting everything polished. And then we opened, there was this huge sense of relief, big celebration. And then since that point in time, I think there's been just a calming down. We're about 3 months past that point now. And I think everyone's settled into this new phase of being an open garden. It's early in the morning now. We open at 10 o'clock. You can hear in the background Tom sweeping away. So people are just sort of settling into these routines and just getting used to this new position of being an operational site. So the garden now is looking phenomenal. We've had pretty much two full growing seasons, and you can see things like this magnificent Eupatorium Rhizoschirm that we've got here. Remember that we put in plants, diddy plants, 3 centimetre pots 2 years ago, and look at them now. I mean, the growth in here has just been amazing. We're so pleased. We've gone from feeling like we're in 6th gear to 5th or 4th in terms of managing everything and matching our emotions and how we feel about things. And it's quite a nice place to be, so that we're really tapping into appreciating the visual effect of the garden and the ambience of the place as well. Hopefully you'll remember about 18 months ago, Josh and his team came in, excavated all of this area and planted up these 16 fantastic parottias that we've got, Persian ironwoods. The plants were brought in, they were on big root balls at that point in time. Everything got filled back up. Now, what we're noticing now, these are big trees to get established in this space. Some of them are green, which is what you'd expect for mid-August, whereas some of them are taking on autumn hues a little earlier than anticipated. So there's a degree of stress within this area, but really that's to be expected. These were big plants that were getting put in, and it takes a few years for them to establish. So I'll get asked the question sometimes whether it's harder to build a garden or run a garden. I mean, they both come with interesting challenges. I think the build itself was the most challenging thing I've ever done in my career, and I think that was probably the same for most of the team. I think most of them would agree with that. It is nice to be open. It provides more structure to the day. The rhythm of an open garden, I feel, is definitely easier to manage psychologically than building something entirely from scratch. Since we've opened, people, especially local people, have taken such a sense of pride in seeing something that was right down here in terms of its feeling, in terms of how it was looked after. I mean, it was a semi-derelict site, and to bring it up to the standard that we've got it to now, I think people are just blown away, especially when they come into areas like the Paradise Garden.
It's just beautiful.
Yeah, it's a great local resource. We come every month. We can see the changes in the garden.
What it brings is something that's much needed to Salford. You just have to look round to see all the kids,
all the families, all the children.
The children from the schools.
I'm loving it.
Just, yeah.
You just feel as though you're abroad, don't you?
Although the team here have planted thousands of trees and plants over the past couple of years, there's always room for more, and even a drop of rain doesn't dampen their spirits.
The weather, nice, isn't it? Typical Manchester weather.
Today, lorries transporting huge trees are arriving from the Chelsea Flower Show. They were in an exhibit to promote the Queen's Green Canopy as part of the Platinum Jubilee celebrations to encourage as many people across the UK to plant trees. Despite the weather, the Arboriculture team, led by Josh Corbett, need to get them in the ground in their new home.
They're big, aren't they? This is the first major project we've worked on since opening, which is it's exciting. This is the first Bridgewater-led project, and seeing these big trees come in, it's really exciting. I think that what we're going to be doing is going to be a big lasting legacy for the site.
I've been very generous with the oars. I don't want to be doing it twice, not at all. But if my calculations are wrong, we'll blame somebody else. You know what I mean? That's always the way.
Literally all we have to do is get the trees, put them in the hole, and everything's prepped, ready to go. What could possibly go wrong?
Hopefully nothing will go wrong, especially as the team have recruited a new apprentice to keep an eye on things. Gabriella Jardine.
I think it's... yeah. OK. And up.
She is one of 4 new trainees being taken on as part of an apprentice scheme.
That's perfect, isn't it? Height-wise.
And her passion is trees.
I'm not exactly the tallest person either, but hopefully that'll work. I actually spent quite a long time in academics. I did an undergraduate career at the University of Southampton in geology, stayed around for a PhD in paleoclimate, really enjoyed it, but then realised that time behind a desk wasn't for me. And I really wanted to find a career that allowed me to be outside, be able to make a difference to people, the environment, kind of the natural world around me. And then I saw the opportunity to apply for an arboricultural apprenticeship with the RHS Bridgewater and knew I really had to go for it.
All of these huge trees from the Chelsea Flower Show are being used as part of a scheme to create 3 new copses in the meadow. By the end of the week, Josh and his team will have added to these and planted dozens more.
That's spot on. Hang on, sorry, there we go. There are going to be a lot of Latin tree names to learn, which I stopped biology at GCSE, so that's going to be a bit of a challenge. Well, it's Betula pendula, so it's a kind of weeping birch form, but it's a particular type of an which I hadn't heard of before. That is Delicalica, I think, if I'm reading that label right. So that's quite a nice one. Already kind of a bit in love with Bridgewater site. There's so much going on. There's so much more still to do. Yeah, that looks good to me. To have this opportunity is an opportunity I'm going to grab and make the most of for sure. I know, so I'm looking forward to it.
Three other apprentices joining Gabriella on a 2-year journey learning the ropes of a horticulturalist are Max, Oshan and Tim. And as part of their training, they've been given a raised bed each to grow whatever takes their fancy.
For my bed, I decided to base it on plants found in traditional Chinese medicine. I wanted to sort of mirror some of the Chinese and Asian influences in the garden. We've got the Chinese streamside garden and the Asiatic section of the Paradise Garden. Sort of very interesting, really, to research what plants are used, where they sort of came from. I learned that I probably shouldn't have planted the licorice because it sends out massive, massive roots, and if I don't get them out, which I don't think I will, in a wall garden team, we're going to be pulling licorice out of this bed for a very long time. I think the challenges over the next 2 years will sort of be deciding what I want to do in horticulture. Because, you know, if I get to spend the next 2 years just being a gardener and spending every day outside, that will be perfect for me.
This is my raised bed. It is based on the Native American Three Sisters planting scheme of corn, squash and climbing beans. It's the most productive 3 crops per square metre too. As you can see, the sweet corn hasn't been quite as good as anticipated. I think it's been a bit of a bad year for sweet corn. I might have just selected the wrong varieties as well. I think I do need to find something which is a bit more suited to the northwest climate. But yeah, they're not quite what I hoped them to be this time of year, really, so. Ultimately, I would love a job in horticulture, although which area specifically, I don't think I've quite made my mind up yet. I think that's something that I could really find out over these next 2 years. I can find where I'm best suited.
So my bed is based on Iranian medicinal and culinary herbal plants. So they're all plants which are native to that region. I have an interest in the region. I've travelled there, and I'd say that I'm trying to express myself with this bed. It's plants that I relate to. It's plants that I'm interested by. It ties in with the type of plants I'd like to work with going forward. This is an interesting plant. This is Salvia multicornis, which grows in the Alborz mountain range. It's got these lovely sort of bracts which pulls along the stem. This is Salvia multicornis. No, sorry, it's not. Do that again. That's Salvia verticillata. I felt that this apprenticeship scheme just offered such an exciting opportunity to be part of a horticultural team for 2 years and learn from those expert horticulturalists on a day-to-day basis.
One expert the apprentices can learn from is Lisa Hudson. At more than 154 acres, Bridgewater is a tad bigger than your average back garden, and it has an insatiable appetite for plants. Tens of thousands are grown from cuttings and seed on site by Lisa in her own little empire, this giant greenhouse.
Propagation is basically sowing seeds, taking cuttings, anything where you can create a new plant from something very, very small up to something absolutely huge. I absolutely love growing. I love watching things come out of the soil and knowing that I've created something that's going to be useful or beautiful. Last year, I produced just under 20,000 plants for the garden, which was quite a busy season when I was on my own. Having the propagation in-house like this, it just means that they can ask and I can deliver for the most part. It just gives them that option of, oh, we can just ask Lisa to do it, which they do.
turning a derelict estate into a world-class garden had to involve some heavyweight machinery. However, it wasn't all bulldozers and diggers. There was also a need for a more sympathetic and subtle touch. So after some brainstorming, the team came up with a solution. Pigs.
What's this? These are our Berkshire pigs. We've had them on site for about 4 years now. They've done a great job. They've acted as big biological ploughs for us. They've been really, really good employees, these guys. Initially, they went on the orchards. They had about a year on there, helping to tidy all of that area up, and they did a really good job. So we managed to manicure the ground without taking heavy machinery on there. Then after that, they went into the Chinese streamside garden. So they worked their way up through the woods, quite a few acres of land they turned over there. And then more recently, for the last couple of years, they've been up on this big field, which is about 12.5 acres. This is where we'll have our arboretum ultimately. So they're helping us to manage this space prior to the arboretum project going on. Probably in the very early days, there were a couple of little discussions about, you know, what were we going to do with the piggies, how long they were going to last, whether we were going to breed off them, maybe whether 1 or 2 would turn into bacon sandwiches or sausages. And of course, that divides opinion totally. And even the more ruthless members of the team who like a bacon sandwich or some bangers and mash occasionally wouldn't have anything happen to these. They're all named, they're all lovely, they're all staying.
A big factor in deciding to build this garden here in the northwest of England was to bring gardening to the heart of local communities. Andrew Simpson is part of the outreach team that goes into the community to spread gardening knowledge and advice. Today, he's giving a demonstration on how to divide plants.
I've got inula, just dug this up last night. That was 1 clump.
Wow.
So it's a bit of a monster. It's an attractive monster. It's from the daisy family. So this is going to look quite brutal. So you hear a satisfying crunch. But you've got quite a strong clump there, which, if we're going to pot that up as an example, I'd give that quite a large pot. So probably this size. So I'm just mounding that up, and then that is ready just to have a thorough water. I think the RHS coming to Salford and the new garden being built in Worsley, as an outdoor space, it's important for people to see what horticulture can be, and the levels you can take it to and the diversity of it.
So we can got in the way a few times, just like including holidays.
Well, it has been very useful, certainly listening to Andy and knowing how to split plants and pot them up, and obviously some free plants, that's good, isn't it?
Being able to access Andy and the outreach support that he gives has been absolutely essential. And I think the outreach work is almost more important than the in-reach work.
That's the thalictrum, the meadow rue. Sort of soft yellow, frothy flowers, yeah. So being involved since 2018, which was almost the very beginning of the project, I've seen a huge difference practically on the site, but also within local groups in the community and their awareness of us as an organisation and what we do as a charity. So I'll do a quick demo of the wild garlic. Because they are so leggy, they're going to look a bit silly, but they will recover. I'm out working with youth groups, sometimes schools, different sorts of community groups, basically any group that is looking to grow for whatever reason. That might be food or to improve an area of the local park.
I'm putting some wild garlic. I'm going to put it in smaller pots and give it to some of my neighbours. So I'm getting them into gardening.
Really, gardening I found relaxing because it got me out of the house instead of indoors all the time. I wanted to get out because I suffer with epilepsy, you see, and gardening relaxed me.
It needs to be put out there more that you can come to places like this in the community and start growing and start learning. And then you're going home with a bunch of food that you can cook and show your family that, hold on a minute, I've just grown this. So it's really, really, you know, nice that you can actually do that.
I love the work I do. Before this, I wasn't doing a community outreach role, and I've realised that this is what I really enjoy.
It's taken more than 4 years of building works on a gigantic scale to create this huge garden. Once the builders, bulldozers, and diggers have left, you would imagine the team here would have had enough of construction for a while and settle into a more tranquil rhythm. But projects manager John Pye, who has been here right from the beginning, has other ideas.
So we've got here the stables buildings that were built back in the 1870s. We've got two buildings. The one on the right here would have had horses in, and then on the left, that would be used for hay, loft storage, and probably threshing on the ground floor. So it was a real productive part of the walled garden at the time. So we're north of the orchard garden. The plan is to create a cafe, a second cafe, which is really important to us because we're struggling on numbers, so much so that we need extra cafe space.
We were anticipating, I think very originally, 90,000 visitors in our first part operating year, and that got reforecast to 200,000, and we ended up with 348,000 people. So that has brought certain pressures and strains in terms of how we deliver the garden, in terms of when we do jobs around the place, certainly in terms of catering right across the site. You know, they've experienced a few queues, pressures in the car park, pressures all around the site.
What we enjoy doing is doing something a little bit quirky. So we've introduced a bat loft into the insides, and that's where the bat can fly in and fly out. There's a little bit of a strange coloured tile on the roof. So it's a nice little touch to what will be a lovely scheme. We are 9.5 weeks into an 11-week programme. So we need to sort this out. We're being promised by the contractors that they're going to finish on time. My neck's on the line if we don't deliver.
While the builders race to get the cafe finished and the coffee flowing, the tranquility of Lisa's greenhouse is disturbed by regular visits from the inner walled garden team. They're collecting the thousands of plants she has been nurturing, and every single one of them will need planting out into the garden.
I don't often get time actually to go out into the garden. I'm usually stuck in my greenhouse because I've got a lot to sow, so I don't often get the chance to actually go out and actually see what's going on outside. If it's raining, yes, I'll get quite a few people popping through because they love it when it's raining in here, but nobody comes to visit when it's sunny. It does get a little bit stressful at times, I will admit. It can be very chaotic, but I very much enjoy the growing part of my job, so this is really the best time of year for me when everything's starting to come alive and there's just so much going on.
Yeah, I have to take holidays sometimes. I'm going on holiday in 4 weeks. I have sleepless nights thinking, oh God, are they all going to be alive when I get back?
Hey there. Hello. What's ready to go today?
Brassicas.
Brassicas, lovely.
Lots of brassicas. We've got some nice cauliflowers and some nice kohlrabi. What can I sell to you today?
Let's go for the kohlrabi first. I'll take that. Thank you very much. Right. I'll see you in a bit.
As Lisa takes a well-earned break, a team of volunteers, along with Simone, Matt, and Sarah, race to get her beloved plants in the ground.
We are planting out a bed of brassicas. We have got 2 different cultivars of cabbage, and we've got a cultivar of kohlrabi going in as well.
So there's so much precision involved
With our planting here today, it's important that you plant them at the right spacing. You want to make sure that they've got enough airflow between each crop. We're spacing them 50 centimetres apart, so they've got enough room to grow. While I'm planting, I'm usually thinking about, depending on what time of the day, what I've got for lunch, or I might have a song in my head and that's just whirling around, or often making sure that I've got things in a line. I will look up and check that I've not gone skew with, because then I'll have to do it again. When it's lovely and warm out here, you know, there's no better place to be. When it starts to rain, depending on how heavy the rain, I might pop my head into the propagation house and see if Lisa wants a hand with anything.
The garden teams do an admirable job of planting the huge number of plants the garden needs. But there are just too many for the staff to cope with. So they rely on a band of volunteers to help out. They're easy to spot, as they all wear purple.
I've been volunteering here since summer 2018. Came before the site was developed in any way at all. I was very excited to be part of such a big new gardening project because I'm a passionate gardener. And I was retired. It was something I was able to do.
We have very hard-working, very helpful bunch of volunteers who, yeah, we really couldn't get this done without them. So with big projects like this, like, it's kind of, we'll wait until they get here until we can do it. So very helpful today.
So right from the outset, we wanted to ensure that as many people benefited from the garden as possible, and integral to that approach was engaging as many people on a volunteer basis as possible. Now, to date, we've had well over 800 people who've volunteered on the project. We get about 50 or 60 regular volunteers that come in each week. Everyone gets something out of it. So they are absolutely integral to what we do and the standards that we manage to achieve on this site.
How would you cope, Ryan, without the volunteers?
We wouldn't. I don't think we would, to be fair.
I just think it's amazing that I get to work with professional gardeners with lots of training, and I can ask lots of questions and I learn a lot.
It's great exercise, gets me out in the fresh air, gets me meeting other people, and I learn stuff. And you take that knowledge back to your own garden.
One volunteer, Tom Taylor, loved it so much he decided to stay and is now a full-time employee working in the plant centre. And it has changed his life.
I felt like I've won the lottery to actually work on a project like this, and now I'm permanent. I've always been self-employed, working on my own a lot. Come here, and I was working with other people, and my confidence grew week after week. Quite a good plant for moist ground.
Slugs like them, don't they?
Unfortunately, yes. It's just changed everything. It's something we have had, but we're just not at the moment. And now I feel like I'm a very confident person. I'm happier working with the plants and working with the members of the public. The number of times I've been asked by other members of staff, "Oh, do you know that person?" I said, "No." Oh, they said, "Well, you was talking to them like you knew them." I said, "Well, yeah, I probably knew them after about 10, 15 seconds. Flowers in August, this would be ideal as well. They're all different, really. You can just come here and you get satisfaction out of what you're doing. When you sow something, especially something with a good value, you feel like you've done your job." Hello.
Which one of these?
I will go for that one.
Okay.
Yes,
lovely.
Definitely.
Great.
Okay,
Thank you
you're
very much.
welcome. Thank you. It gives you a big boost, that. Before I started at Bridgewater, I didn't really have a big interest in gardening. Now I'm in the plant centre I've only been in 8 months, but I've learned a tremendous amount in 8 months regarding all the plants, the names of plants. I read books on horticulture now to try and help do homework at night. So if I have to leave here, it'd be a sad day for myself.
Back in the 19th century, no grand estate was complete without a huge lake for the gentry and their guests to enjoy boating, shooting, and lazy afternoon strolls. The Earl of Ellesmere's Lake, which is rather large, sits just below where the Grand House once stood. It too fell into decline along with the estate, until contractors moved in, drained the lake of every last drop of water, dredged out thousands of tons of silt, and filled it up again. Now, the Arboriculture team and Apprentice Gabriella are on its banks, tackling a large, majestic oak that needs some TLC.
This is definitely the first big tree that Gabby's doing. But it's all about confidence climbing and learning tree work. It's about doing it and just doing and taking little steps. And she's done stuff before, and now seems like the right time to get on with something big.
The oak tree over by the lake has had a fire set around its base, and that means it's had quite a lot of damage to the bark, and rot has set in kind of in the roots, and essentially it's not kind of stable in its base as it should be for the height and the size of the tree. We don't want to take it all the way down to the ground because it is it's an old tree, but instead we're going to kind of reduce it and prune it back and take some of the weight out of the tree and hopefully give it a bit more of a lifespan, a bit more of a chance to keep going for a few more years.
You're not far away there.
No.
I just think you need a bit more line coming through.
You think?
Yeah,
Right.
I don't think you're having your line long enough.
Gabs, I would have thought we were finding this climb quite difficult. It's a little bit of a step up from what she's been used to.
Oh, I just don't think I can actually physically throw it far enough, is the problem.
There's things that she wouldn't have come across before, and it just takes a little bit of confidence just to get over that. And do it a couple of times, and next time you know how to do it.
So climbing a tree definitely has quite a few physical demands. You need to be able to pull yourself up on the ropes. It's not all kind of arm and upper body strength. There is quite a lot of kind of core and legs that you use as well. Personally, me, I do have to take a breath and go, no, these ropes can hold me. They've been tested. We know that. So that part can be a little unnerving. I do quite like moving around the tree. I do enjoy the view that you can see kind of out from the crown. And I do quite like looking directly down and seeing how far I am up, which is definitely probably not for everyone. It's a really unique experience. Yep. I might only have this one in me.
The main aspect of being a good arborist is getting used to trust your gear. You know, knowing that your harness and your rope can hold your weight plus 10 times more. So it does take a bit of time to obviously build your confidence up that way, but the more you do it, the more confident you become.
I find I just want to get my blue line through, otherwise I'm going to get very stuck.
Yeah, it's a dangerous job. It does have its dangerous elements, and I've always kind of said a little bit of fear can probably keep you as safe as you can be, you know. It's nice to have that little bit of element where you think something could go wrong, because then you check everything twice, 3 times before you might do it.
Once you start going round that way now, it'll just loosen off, OK?
I'm always in awe as they head up on spikes and on ropes and strap themselves into the crowns of these trees and slowly take everything down. It's not something I've ever personally done. I've been up on a mupe quite high, and I like to sit in a cage and grip it quite tightly. The thought of being, I don't know, 50, 60, 70 feet up in the top of a tree with just a rope and a carabiner doesn't appeal to me.
Bit more, Gabs, you'll get that. I can feel you going.
Yeah.
Yeah, look at that. Whoa, you beauty. Nice one.
It is an industry that's up until now been male dominated. Ready?
Yep.
I'd like to think that more women and maybe even young teenage girls might look at a career in arboriculture and tree work, because it's a lot of fun and it is really interesting, and you are working with trees, which I think is really quite cool.
Yeah, Gabs is doing really well today. It is absolutely as hard as it looks. I've always said there's no easy way of cutting a tree down. It's always hard work.
Time to go. What? It's running.
Oh. Very tiring. Occasionally nerve-wracking, but a lot of fun. But hauling myself up there is definitely tired. It feels really good to do a climb and then look back at a tree and be like, oh, I was up there, and see the work that you've done.
Having one huge lake wasn't enough for landscape architect Tom Stewart Smith, who is responsible for the overall design of the garden. Part of his grand plan was to create a brand new lake next to the Welcome Building. After months of digging, soil removal, and a bit of trampolining,
so, there we go. Oh, that's it, there you go.
the lake was filled and is now flourishing. Well, almost. It has a few issues, which Ryan, Helen, and apprentice Max are tackling.
Today we're getting rid of some blanket weed and some nymphoides. The blanket weed because it's like an imbalanced ecosystem, so there's lots of blanket weed which we don't want disrupting the wildlife and the plant growth. Get rid of nymphoides because it's invasive and we've got much nicer ones to put in. I hope I can swim. I'm all right. I was never very good at like school. I never got like my little duckling badge or anything, but
You'll be fine. There we go. How's that feel?
she's a sturdy vessel, isn't she?
Okay, so I'm going to push it off.
I got into gardening because about a year and a half ago, I was in the city. I was cooking. I was working in kitchens, and the great bits were great, and the hard bits were real hard. And I thought, I'm either going to carry on chefing and working in a hot, stuffy kitchen, or I could try doing something a little bit nicer.
Yes, that's a good bit. So Max, this is the nymphoides. So it's like a yellow flower. It's very pretty, but it just takes over. So as you can see, have a look at that. That is the root system on it. It really gets in there on the soil. You see how it just climbs along the base of the lake.
When I realised I got the job and I got the call, the emotion was disbelief. I didn't think that I would get the job. It was plain sailing. Once I got out there, it was quite nice. Quite a relaxing thing to do on a Tuesday morning.
While Max's sea legs recover, in the walled garden, apprentice Oshan has his hands in terra firma.
So we're planting Fritillaria imperialis bulbs today. So we've got to dig some quite nice deep holes. It's about 30-odd centimetres down.
I've always been interested in gardening. Growing up as a little boy in North Wales, we had quite a large family garden that was all sort of wild and overgrown. And likewise, my grandmother had an old overgrown walled garden. So when we went to visit her, sort of entered into this amazing enclosed space. And that was one of the things that really struck my imagination about Bridgewater, was that the renovation of this walled garden.
Some people might think that, planting bulbs is quite a simple task, but there's certain things for particular bulbs that you might want to be aware of. So, for example, generally, as a rule of thumb, they say sort of plant a bulb 3 times the height of the bulb. With Fritillaria, they sometimes recommend that you plant them sort of on their side. Otherwise, you might get water pooled in the bulb and it would rot the bulb. So some people suggest that you plant it on their side. Apparently, other people say that they self-right after a year, so they actually prefer to be in the upright position. So jury's out on that one. So that one's actually gone in on its side, so I'll leave that and we'll do that as a bit of a test.
Although the garden is a huge success, the team are constantly thinking of ways to attract visitors and offer different experiences. Today, they are hosting a major floristry competition, giving visitors an insight into a completely different horticultural world.
So today we have the Florist of the Year for the UK finals, and they will then go ahead and compete in the World Cup, which takes place in Manchester next year. You can really see why they're competing to be the Florist of the Year, because it's out of this world what they're creating. It's like nothing else you've seen before. It's amazing.
It's such a lovely venue, and it's so nice to have the general public here looking and seeing what's going on. Floristry is something that people don't always realise what it involves, so having it here and having the public coming in and getting such inspiration from the gardens as well.
We hold these events for a range of different reasons. We hold events that help boost memberships so that people want to come back and keep coming back to the garden for different reasons. And then we also work with different plant societies. So this year we've had the Pelargonian and Geranium Society come, and they did a show a few weeks back. We also do different events, like we hosted the first ever LGBTQ+ event back in April, which was called Pride in Nature. And these events are sort of to try and broaden our audiences and kind of create new people and work with our local communities to come into the garden as well.
We work in the cafe and we've nearly finished our shift now, and our team leader just said, "Have you been to look at the flowers?" Said no, so she's let us go a bit early to come down and look at the flowers before we go home, yeah.
We like that one over there that's got the shawl which makes out of the lamb's ears.
Beautiful. We love that display there.
Yeah.
Can we take some home?
I think as a whole, it's great for floristry because a lot of visitors that come to places like this don't necessarily see floristry in this style. And I think the feedback I've had today has just been everyone's come away with something that's been really fantastic, great ideas, and it's amazing to see floristry in this sort of setting.
The winner of the Florist of the Year 2022 is... Elizabeth Newcomb.
I can't believe it. I really can't. I worked so hard the last couple of months, and the last couple of days in here has just been bonkers. I'm going to go to bed at 9 o'clock, catch up on some sleep, and then we'll party next week. Really celebrate next week. And then I think we're going to start looking at plans for the World Cup.
Right at the beginning of the journey to create this garden, Hugo Bugg and Charlotte Harris were commissioned to design a new 2-acre kitchen garden. They based their design on the Bridgewater canal network that runs alongside the garden. their design wasn't without controversy. These huge steel towers divided opinion.
I think they could be possibly controversial.
Once they've got green plants all over them, they'll look much more at home.
Now the towers have settled in, are they still causing a stir?
So the towers are key features within the garden, within Charlotte Harris and Hugo Bugg's design, and they are inspired by the chimney at the back of the garden. The public reaction to them has been overwhelmingly positive. I think people like the fact that it's inspired by a physical feature on site, but also that it speaks to the local industrial heritage as well. Now, in terms of how the plants are performing going up them, it's variable. So we've got some which are completely clad up at the western end, and then others which are full of promise that will be clad in the next few years.
As it is getting covered up, nobody will notice the bare metal. You have got to give nature time. But I like this one because it's nearly covered up.
I like more.
Yeah.
When we first came, you'd only just opened, and we came in and we thought we weren't sure about them. But since we've come back today, I think they're absolutely fabulous. They're just beautiful. They're modern, but they do fit here.
Quite like the juxtaposition between the older brick, the squareness of the garden plots, rectangle shapes, and then the shapes of the towers.
You'd expect any kitchen garden to look good July, August, September, and probably into October. We're in a position now where overall the garden is looking in a really strong place, and importantly, we're providing the cafe with crops as well.
Simone, Nina, Matt, and a handful of volunteers harvest vegetables and fruit twice a week in the early hours before the public arrive.
We're doing a harvest of the kale for the kitchen today. It's the second harvest that we've done this year. So we just take a couple of leaves off each one of the plants so we don't strip them bare. But as you can see, they're doing fantastically well. So I'm sure they won't mind us taking a few, but obviously we don't want to overwhelm the kitchen either. Really, really happy with this year. They've got a really, really nice mix of the dwarf curly kale and the Cavallonero types.
Looks like it's a courgette sort of a day.
Oh, it's amazing. They look fantastic.
I'm picking the red onions. And these would make a nice onion chutney with a curry, nice papadum.
Once they have the day's crops loaded, food miles are kept to a minimum, and it's a short drive to the kitchen where head chef Matthew Taylor will be adding them to the menu.
Good morning.
Morning, Simon.
How are you?
Very good. You?
Yeah, really well, thank you. So we've got today's harvest. We've got some really nice heritage dwarf French beans, some mange too.
Yeah, the colour on those is amazing.
Yeah, it's really nice, isn't it? Really quite unusual. Heritage lettuce, really nice selection of courgettes.
Yeah, they're great. You managed to keep the flowers on.
Absolutely, so, yeah, they're coming on really nicely. Kale as well, so we've got some Cavallonero, some curly kale as well, some peas, and then again some edible flowers for you.
Yeah, that's great. We've had some really good feedback from the customers, actually, about the Cavallonero that you dropped off last week.
That's brilliant. It's fantastic to know. Right, I'll leave this with you.
Great, thank you. It's really important for me and the whole kitchen team that we, use local suppliers, and obviously that helps with the garden being so productive as it is. It's a benefit for us as chefs because we get to use amazing produce and it's as fresh as it can be. But I think the visitors appreciate that as well. You know, for us as chefs, the fresher the produce, the better the dish is going to be in the end result. And it's, you know, it's amazing to be able to work with such quality, fresh ingredients as this. Reducing the food mileage is really important to every chef. And, you know, not everybody has the opportunity that I've got here to be able to see the produce from the kitchen window.
It's not just the diners in the Welcome Building restaurant that are enjoying fresh produce. Customers of the new cafe are also being served fruit and vegetables grown just a few hundred metres away.
So this is the new Stables Cafe, and we had 24 hours from finishing the building work to actually going live to the public. I think it's going really well. You can see just by the visitor volumes that we've got, and everybody's got smiley faces, so they're all getting full. That's great. The issue we've got, it's doing its job in taking volume off, but the volume's growing as well, exponentially, which is a great thing. We've got long-term plans. We've got 40 acres of the site that we haven't yet developed. We've got shepherd's huts, which are the little catering outlets that we can chop and change over the seasons in the garden just to manage peak demands. And then we've got other plans in place that I'll keep under wraps for now. The Stables Cafe and the other outlets bring in money, but it's much needed. So visually, I mean, this was a derelict 1870s set of barns. It was a hayloft, it was the horse's home. And just turning it into a cafe, I think, is a nice sort of nod to its past. But the attention to detail and the rustic feel that we've got, I think, is fantastic.
Since her role in the opening ceremony, Bridgewater ambassador Carol Klein hasn't been back to the garden for more than a year. Carol was born and brought up just down the road, and she has fond memories of growing up in the neighbourhood.
My granddad worked here as a garden boy long, long ago. And we even had a Christmas rose that actually came from the gardens here. I don't think he pinched it. I think he was given it when he left. He left to become a cabinet maker. But I used to play in Worsley Woods just over there. So geographically, I'm really close to it. But I think also emotionally, you know, it's to do with our family and the place we come from, where we live. I've seen it right from the word go. And now, I mean, it really is like paradise.
So we've got our amazing team of volunteers in tomorrow. So we've got a few annuals and a few herbaceous perennials that we need to go into our herbal section of the kitchen garden.
Do you love it?
Yeah. Sometimes I can't believe it, that, you know.
Yeah.
I'm here, I'm like, oh, well, look around. I'm like, oh, wow.
Oh, it's brilliant. Hiya.
Hello.
You look busy. What are you up to?
Always.
What are these?
Black-eyed Susans.
Right.
So
Thunbergia alata.
Yes.
Sorry.
So yeah, these have gone into the central bed. We've just finished with our community groups for the day today.
What's they been doing?
They've harvested so many strawberries.
Yeah.
Beetroot we've planted. Yeah, and we've done Radish. carrots. Lots of direct sowing today, yes.
Right. And are they from the local community?
Yeah, they're all Salford groups at this moment
Salford
in
groups.
time.
Fantastic. Yeah.
Well, that's really important to me because I'm from Salford.
Yeah.
And horticulture and being in nature was never something that was promoted to me as a child. So
No,
I
and
did
it's-
15 years in a different career before I realised that this is what I wanted to do.
I think you've got the best job, you know, working
I
with
think
us.
I've got the best job as well. I'll have to agree with you there.
I think this garden and gardens like this, I think they're really vital as far as the local community are concerned. There ought to be more of them. They ought to be all over the place. So people can come in and see things, learn things. Take this place, I mean, this is the kitchen garden. so people can actually come in here and see what they can grow. And I mean, they might not have a vast expanse, but they might have a bed the size of one of these, and you can see what you can pack into it and how simple and straightforward it is. And there are always folk around who, you know, the gardeners who work here, who you can talk to about it as well. Now, to have this here, you know, where I come from, where my family, friends and neighbours come from, it's theirs now. It's part of my heritage.
To finish her day out, Carol catches up with Marcus in the Mediterranean garden.
You're just not expecting to see Mediterranean plants growing, you know, just north of Manchester, Salford.
Yeah, this was probably horticulturally the biggest challenge for us.
Yeah.
For exactly all the reasons you'd expect. We've got high rainfall.
Yeah.
You know, most of these plants like it dry, arid. We had to do a lot of work to get on the soil to get them prepared for this planting.
So 4 years ago, when you were thinking about this space, were people doubtful about whether it would work? Were you doubtful?
Well, we wouldn't have invested the amount of time and effort if we thought it's going to fail.
Yeah.
But I would say that we didn't expect it to be as successful as it has been. Yeah. We thought there'd be more casualties. We'd plant up this scheme, we'd have lots of successes, some that were in the middle, and we'd lose some things. But actually, we've hardly lost anything.
No.
So the success has been quite a lot higher than we anticipated.
How long have you been here now?
So I started right at the beginning of 2017, so I'm in year 6, about 5.5 years in now.
And what's it been like?
It's been a roller coaster. It's been up and down. There's been highs and lows.
Yeah.
Yeah, all over the place. We got there, but there was some really, really tricky elements in the build and through the process.
But you've triumphed. And I mean, I think the thing is, you're saying, we got there. But you haven't got there, have you? Because the whole thing is going to go on and on.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we got to a point in time.
Yes.
Which was the opening on May the 18th of last year.
I
but
remember
of course,
it.
You do. You were here. But then, obviously, the garden will go on and on and on. Yeah. And hopefully there'll be someone stood where we're stood talking about this garden in 100 years, 200 years' time.
Yeah.
Next time, Lisa takes on even more work with a national collection of pelargoniums.
When they're in full flower and they're outside and they're looking beautiful, then I think they're lovely plants. When it comes to time when I'm taking cuttings and I've done, 1,600 and still going, no, I don't like them at all.
There's some much-needed renovation on Bridgewater's most iconic building.
This will be probably another month to 6 weeks before we finish.
And the apprentices face one of their biggest challenges yet.
Bit nervous, but kind of done my revision, so I know about 10 out of 15 of them, I think.
Yes, they're actually so wish you want to know shares and guns up first and now we're in the east name in the spirit with one little was lot of yes and like it's not snurf hitch in the east west that's not with many nick beer with so much zoops the east yes not this for many was hey so well we are well I first we're never much skeleton sad
oh you're in it this talk me on so much oh you're like Diana, was not say us anita, say he and office cheer why not. Is not has house to get it. It's not be from festival. Not on smart is going to have yeah, now it's not man and us so you remember
Visst hövvärlden, du visst inte gästen till självfällen med max och visst låt mig så missas på smås yes home let me start in the first name session I as Arboriculture så är det och standard name till oss Säs hade varit optional att vikta av mas ganska på start av börja gå för stöd måste och vi Nog ja, precies, dat is serieus. Oh, stuur bij elkaar, ik zie dat. Ja, maar je ziet het. En we zien het. Man, is afstand, het. Man, begrijpt me, het was. Mocht nou zo. Ja, en zal het het wordt. Alleen niet.
Ja, wie is waar nog? Een schertsen met een gedictie. Ja, dus. Zelf dan als je dan in dag erps is de neem niet zoeken. Meest je wijven optie. Nes messuur na. Zegt in hem ook wel bestaat. Mijn dagen hier bezoek. Snurren je het zelf gewoon in de regen dag zit blijven gedas in. Dat is afgeven.
Het soort heel verloren. Sneeuw nooit het is nog niet heel erg nu. Je ziet echt samen zijn abend zo snel maar zijn hier bij jou is dit is een mensel vuur. Om een winnen heel gewest. Nee niet bis die office. Als zo van zeg zo zich nu maar zijn hier bis niet eens nu is gewoon over daar weer. Met verleer ben ik weer without sal en ik ben wel laag zeker bij de wees en ik wil oh. Maar niet waar bis een shucks is little bakker wat zie je die hier even niet bord. Maar je is nog niet hier bij de stair. Siep zit je aan met z'n gewaarheid. Ja, dan slaan we hier bar weg. Wel, zit je van de voice arbeid. Zo je vergeet je nog aan je. Zij je wordt zelf in zero minute. Hadden we een stukje naar de zich jou even ook snow with us. Ja, wat ook weer is. Maar ja, smeert zien als je de zin met alles van het. En maar je niet je weg yes ado. Smaar gedoe je aan met je aan je was baas doe je er weer. Alright, aflooi dat is niet wat han maar je arbeid dus ooit nog naar weer zin. Ja, zie je met de weer hier met surf zo al hoe je snel al gibt dit straf het baas ergens te dan zei of aber ja nummer af schep beschap haar zie ses
De schule zit maar merk niet. Je moet sneer maar zit vast. Start pas nog eens het met zomer venus. Naslaha silzi, marfnal nixes snerpet ups keno.
Sia biet nog zelfs nog heb ik marfnal net me se juist meest nog gevaar je best niet van als ik dus de vat meest is net zit het left. Das alles ist ja wie was. Nein, gar nicht. Und Aerosmith. So hoch ist wie was. Es ist Metz und alles hoch. Ich hab's auch was hier, was ich auch schnell nicht mehr. So kleine Circle ist du. So hoch ist wie was. Es ist noch jetzt zwischen den ist so hoch. So was die Altas nach befasst. So nicht erst. Ja, das zwischen dem das nachsteht. Höchst yellow ja als nachsteht. Steps at the first of steps gives national other steps not had the last one is even this session in it here no year others first the end
Ira nare so gere nakatoki kike nai kara mola kuri samata pika pika zenaka Nano kikatada hiramodi sine kimaki samarena Joanna kolansa butoku kemasu kotakisu kimanasi harikanitu Konto si hangakito hikasaki marisa genzanaki haritu hiraimosi gesi Irana de su gerena katoki Kikena hikara mola kuri samata Pika pika zenaka Nano kikatada hiramodi sine kimaki samarena Joanna kolansa butoku kemasu Kotakisu kimanasi harikanitu Konto si hangakito hikasaki marisa genzanaki haritu hiraimo
Det just and the was last did me. Me asking all the rubber. Her snaps hit last year till no people miss and dog low when it who walking it where the show I'm at one of it. It's not spurious ham wasn't this it shirical this not for the shibor panel more for me was tossed it out see it's not oh serious still in recession era first the dogs are up is taji he not the dog not smear seen I should up the dog and this no smear she and seen I should them serembos with this no Nu sedam zina ashtul chedish nidnaf snalf not is here but the das is that dam
It's not that's guest of it work. She steps here run of it nip yet. Near step the tops in it. Mesna. Na shop. Scammo. Seller stock to have a square with me Lena they used to know. I lie right in yours this is never there.
Schiffwort haben in der Bauung der Gemeinde nicht mal das ist nicht was etwas hier nichts ab hey wir ist nicht so immer sind lange am wir set ja das Stoff der von eben für nach wieder noch sehr auch alles sehr wohl wir an mir mal finden das se ma hof oder na stell eine Woche nachstelle ich nicht herrlich ist, bis er im Hof sterben viel. Wenn ich das erst herrlich nicht vielleicht aber oh schnell ist es eben nichts anderes sie ist ich die Laubspots ja und alles mir nicht halb was soll ich nicht gehört ja ja was lange no ups up
Womsen sagt das nicht mehr sie ist nicht für mich sie nicht hier with neither Damn, this is what we need to get meets the top to swing even. Where shall we slash them of sears to see the law?
So, for here, I suppose there's such a snapper's look up on her field, but these finished by those sound and that he might wash and at the next number made low beef boost, nerve fit. James will be there, slightly steam battles there, getting off. There's no really around it. He was had in the macht. Seller net op radio's neer. Melk legt meest ik per van mij dit. Hier is de loodje in. Maar vast weet ze niet daar. Is daar dan ja, maar ik kan melk nog ook net iets aan. Nou, wat is we dan het hebt zelfs dat is dat hier nog.
Zie ne schappen na.
Ja, is gebeurd.
Niks is nog met de hart en aan het niet zien eerst in of van op zich.
Ja,
Hier is de leier bij. Zo niet mij aan het is is nog bij in de structuur van mij het zich schept. Maar we gaan niet van nele voor.
Waar wij gaan besappen. Kijk eens dat heeft niet weg en dan met op zeer dat ik serieus de 5 oil is. Heel, die was aan hier. Slide op smeltboom, maar we zijn schillig. Maar ja, weer vis op. Als dat zelfs niet weet wat dan. Zo is dus er meest niet meer van.
Ja, så det finns en väldigt halvgip. Nu det ser ut, det blir inte upp. Det tar jag skriver. Den är officer, det är sen det är nog snäll och så stiv. Så för det ser det askis. As is nu det på asnis. Vad ska jag för ska nog bestämt så för det ser. Ja, lager det.
Ja, minnen det märken med äggstin. Det var schysst jag den mesta stockar boy. Ja, det var det absit. Sirst nat. Ja, vi sorgde dat ik nemen ze de wagen uit. Zijn de sheer blessure buiten mijn stad betapse. Even nach nieuw bekwamen bestemd kennen er weer. Ja, zo al vis lasten nog niet jaar. Sirst doe ik niet op nacht zero. Ja, dus.
Wel wat zeg nou mogelijk best. Dus ja, wel wat.
Sen matten zat meer voor de pine. Oh, moet nu zo zit. Even wat zaken de was not maar eerst business laat. Dus not hij niet dit level.
Nee, wat door ben je was het even. En de volgende.
Verleuchten. Echt mooi is, maar onmogelijk was het niet. Dat was dit in chumps en het moest zingen weer op.
Hi, this is the eerste week. Nou, mijn fan nog niet. Zo zie ik wel eerlijk. Hi, boven steeds te shit.
Ik zou er als er huis niet meer kunnen met scheps. Ja, when we zich de pier met aan we stel ook met de mats de spudding er busna. Ja, skiller was niet messen. Zo in meer fast, dus we wachten dus niet leaves. Fürs müssen die rein. Was ja. So with me müssen ist das Jahr. Was nächstes ist nicht erst wir hoch will nicht scheps. Wo wir auf ist. Arcs and filas with us, yes, with ich doch ja schnell am Stacy. Hier ein Fest oder vier und Wagen für eine Yes, dit is de schortsom. Snel wordt in het bijbeltje zitten. Hadden we er kunnen met het zwem met de meeste het zwem of mes wil beworpen zo aan het jana. Er kan met en dat de wel niet niet in de laatste zwem meer. Zo flas is loop met ja. Zeg in de laatste zeg niet. Stel wat je hebt niet aan laag en er rol en laag is loop. We stel laag is er those mouse müssen nicht auch gezeigt was. Silbats tussen met de zee fürs eerste sna. Nee, toch niet eigenlijk het snel. Je ziet dit apps even salileren. Hij was in dit hart sfeer dus dit is die apps is naar de hele en dat is me stop nou niet eerst. Met we zelf zeggen neem apps in die ossies neer. Met we apps in de silbats eigenlijk hier skip we ziet one is meer nieuw one. Ik heb wel even niet meer als niet nog aan de zo uur geeft maar het nee store besnaald.